Welcome to the Voice for Mount Pleasant podcast, featuring discussions and interviews about the people, places, and events that make Mount Pleasant such a special place.
Hello, this is Roger Gaither, your host for the Voice for Mount Pleasant podcast. Today, senior contributing writer with Mount Pleasant magazine, Pamela Jouan, talks with Charlton Singleton, who, among other things, is a member of the Grammy Award-winning band Ranky Tanky that celebrates the sounds of Gullah. It's a two-part podcast. With part one, here's Pamela and Charlton.
Hi there, and welcome to another edition of the Voice of Mount Pleasant podcast. Today we are here with Charlton Singleton. Charlton is actually a native of Charleston, South Carolina. He grew up in Awanda. His father is a retired minister for the AME Church and was an educator, and his mother is a retired librarian from Lincoln High School. And Charlton happens to be the co-founder and was the conductor of the Charleston Jazz Orchestra from 2008 to 2018. And now he is part of Ranky Tanky, Grammy Award-winning band that celebrates the sounds of Gullah. So we are going to turn it over to Charlton, and we were thinking maybe you could, as you say in the Gullah community, raise up a song for us from your new Good Times album.
Oh, from Good Time. Let's see. Beat 'em down, love. Beat 'em down, love. I'll use my heart's love to beat 'em down. Oh, beat 'em down, love. Beat 'em down, love. I'll use my heart's love to beat 'em down. Now, disclaimer, I'm no singer. Kiana's the singer. You know, I sing background on that song, but in this sort of, day and age, everybody can always use some more love. So I like the chorus of that song. Yeah.
Well, walk us back a little bit and kind of give us a history lesson on you and when did you fall in love with music and how many instruments do you play? Oh gosh.
Falling in love with music, that's a tough question because I started playing actually when I was 3.
Wow.
The piano. And I was basically just trying to follow what my, big sister and my big brother was doing. And when she was 13 and my brother was 10 and I was 3, they had a piano teacher that would come to the house and give them these little 30-minute lessons, and being the baby of the family and running around with big sister and big brother whenever they had lessons, then I lost an hour with them. So I would run in and out of the room and, hit a button, and run out or something. And just over the time of them doing that, after a couple of months and observing them, which is, when you're at that age, you copy everything that you see your big sister or big brother or your parents do. That's how you learn. And so I started to copy things that I saw them do on the piano. And it was very simple at the time. They were just beginners. But one day I picked out something that I had heard them doing. And that's when my parents sort of said, well, maybe we could see if he's too young. And so, or not, and so that's when I started. So falling in love with music, oh gosh, that's an early age.
Right.
3 years old, 4 years old,
And piano first and then other instruments?
Piano was first, and then when I got to the 4th grade, the violin.
Okay.
And then 6th grade, around 11 years old, that's when trumpeting came in.
Okay.
And then over the years, just by paying attention and eventually going to school to become a music educator, more specifically a band director. There's learning all of the different band instruments like your flute and clarinet and oboe and saxophone and all of the brass instruments like the trombone and the French horn and tuba and euphonium and everything. So that's a list of instruments and a little guitar,
Right.
So
Jack of all trades.
Jack of all trades, good at maybe one of them, but
I was going to say a master of a couple of them. So that's great.
Yeah.
Now you grew up with a religious background. Your father was a minister,
Yes.
and today you are actually the choir director and the organist here in beautiful St. Patrick's Church,
Yes.
downtown Charleston.
Mm-hmm.
So is it a given that music maybe was slightly influenced by religion in some way, or your religious upbringing, or did it kind of impact any of your musical choices?
I guess you could say that music at church definitely plays into a lot of what I did growing up musically and what I do now. The first, I guess, groups that I actually heard and paid attention to were choirs or praise teams or the prayer band, at school or whatever. I mean, at church. So those were definitely influences, in the very beginning.
Right.
And then also being that my sister and my brother were, 10 years and 7 years older than me, whatever they were listening to, is
Also.
usually something that I had to listen to. And that would have been whatever the popular music was of the day. But definitely gospel was something in there, and church did have a huge part in that. My first performance was at my father's church where I played Amazing Grace. I was 3 years old with a little toy organ, yeah.
And as you said, it kind of came full circle now with Ranky Tanky.
Definitely.
So let's just talk a little bit about the fact that you kind of are known as the jazz man of Charleston,
Okay.
especially with Charleston Jazz Orchestra that you started and conducted for so long. And then you decided to focus your attention on Ranky Tanky. Can you tell me a little bit about why you decided to do that?
Well, we had been doing the orchestra for about 10 years. And we started it in 2008. And then Ranky Tanky, even though we all knew each other and had, been performing with each other in various, other groups and things like that since the mid-1990s, when we came back together and decided to do this particular project of Ranky Tanky, that was about 2015 or 2016. 2016 was when we really started to perform and we started to travel. And as it started to snowball, it just made more sense for me to step back away from the orchestra and actually to give it a little bit another shot in the arm, with a different voice with Robert Lewis, who does a great job. But it just made a little bit more sense now that we were traveling so much, and it just made it a lot easier for rehearsals with the orchestra, and things like that. So that's pretty much the main reason why I stepped back from the orchestra. But I'm still their number one fan.
And I'm sure they're still your number one fan too.
They're great people. It's a great band. It's a great group.
So where did you come up with the name Ranky Tanky? I believe is that a Gullah word?
Oh yeah,
phrase?
it's actually a kid's game.
Okay.
And it means to sort of work it or get busy or get funky with it.
Okay.
All right. So if you listen to the first recording, the self-titled one from 2017, there's a song called Ranky Tanky.
Okay.
And it's a kid's game. So the game is basically, a rhyme. And it has hand motions and, body motions and stuff that you do. But the words are, old lady come from Booster, had 2 hens and a rooster. The rooster died, the old lady cried, now she don't eat eggs like she used to. Pain in my hands, Ranky Tanky, you shake it out. Pain in my head, Ranky Tanky. Pain in my arms, Ranky Tanky. Pain all over me, Ranky Tanky. Now imagine kids doing this. Okay, you've got kids that are probably anywhere from 4 years old to, teenagers or whatever have you. But this is the thing that they're doing, to entertain themselves. And we thought it was a catchy name, and so we just decided to name the band Ranky Tanky, you need some relief, listen to some Ranky Tanky, shake it out, dance it out.
Do you have a little rhythm piece that you can play for us from that Ranky Tanky song? Is there?
So remember have you ever played Patty Cake with anybody?
Yes.
Uniquely Gullah, Patty Cake.
Okay.
because you're clapping on 2 and 4. Old lady come from Booster. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. Old lady come from Booster. Had 2 hands and a rooster. The rooster died, the old lady cried. Now she don't eat eggs like she used to. Pain in my hands, Ranky Tanky. Pain in my arms, Ranky Tanky. Pain in my head, Ranky Tanky. Pain all over me, Ranky Tanky. And you have that rhythm the whole time, that old lady come from Booster. Had 2 hands and a rooster. Rooster died, old lady cried. So that's the genesis of it.
Right.
Yeah.
And also patty cake is really.
Well, I mean, just the 2 and 4.
Yes, the 2 and the 4. Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, definitely. But all of this with Gullah is such an informant to so many different styles of music and so many other things that that we come into contact with everyday life. Because Gullah dates back so far. Think about this. Think about it this way. When we talk about the origin of jazz, that's usually somewhere around the late 1800s into the early 1900s. Most people just cut it off and say 1900, but it's a little bit before that.
Right.
And when we say jazz, we're talking about just improvising on some music. Well, the Gullah community has been there way longer before that. And them singing and entertaining themselves and praising them, with themselves and clapping rhythms and stomping rhythms and things like that. All of that's way before that. Jazz, folk music, that's how we get into spirituals, gospel music, shades of bluegrass, all of that. And if you think about the geography of it, with Gullah being from the Sea Islands and coastal, and having like the Appalachians, not that far away from it.
Right, that's true.
That's how you get into that sort of, it sort of connects a little bit, or you get that sort of, that mix of it.
So kind of a fusion with folk music comes out of that, and it's
Yeah,
different.
but like I said, there's certain things like let's say, for example, if you're doing that same song, if we're doing Ranky Tanky, and we slowed it down a little, old lady come from Booster. It's very slight, but it's definitely that swing pattern that you are playing, that a drummer may be playing eventually, on their cymbal.
Right.
That's the sort of connection that you can get, of that. And because Gullah is so far long ago and has had that rhythm so far long ago, and jazz is basically the new kid on the block, or
Right.
folk music is the new kid on the block.
Funny to think about it that way, because you think of jazz as still an older genre. So just for anyone who doesn't quite understand, so the Gullah culture, or Gullah, encompasses kind of North Carolina coast all the way down, swings through South Carolina coast, up to about Jacksonville.
Correct.
And all the Sea Islands.
Right.
And those were basically the places where
West African slaves,
settled.
former West African slaves, settled.
Settled.
And those places, and some of them even still today, are only reachable by boat.
Right.
Now some of them have bridges, but that's where it all basically came from. Some of them are still in their natural state. Some of them have developed quite a bit.
Right.
For example, just around here, Capers Island,
Right.
Waldoons, Isle of Palm, Sullivan's Island. If you keep going down, you've got James and John's Island. If you go further down, you've got places like Hilton Head Island, Defusky Island. I always like talking about Defusky Island because, I mean, the name is itself,
Right.
Defusky Island. Defusky Island.
Ah,
Yeah.
got it.
Yeah. Half of Defusky Island right now is totally the same way it's been from when God put it on there.
Wow.
There's no electricity. unless people have a generator or whatever. The people that live on it, there's dirt roads, there's no lights, there's no nothing like that. There's another part of the island, multi-million-dollar homes,
Right.
you know, and things like that. But yeah, Defusky is one of them, and it just goes all the way down. You know, Jekyll Island, Amelia Island, you know, all of those places.
And the sounds, as you mentioned, children's nursery rhymes, praises, poems even. Are these all ideas that you incorporated into music that you remember from your childhood? Because you're from the Gullah culture yourself. You are a descendant.
Some of them, the way that we perform it may be a little bit different from the way that someone else in another on another island or another village or another, you know, town might perform it. But that's the way with everything.
Right.
A lot of times when we're out on the road and we're doing outreach, education outreach, we always talk to students and we say, remember that game, the telephone game, where you tell one person one thing and they whisper it to the next person, and by the time it gets all the way back around, it's probably something different.
Right.
Okay. The way that I sing, or the way that my neighborhood or my church sings one particular song, that same song 2 miles down the road at the same church or at a different church
Right.
may have a slight variation.
Right.
The same goes for a church another 4 miles, you know, past that. It's going to have a slight variation. And so that's sort of where you get the, you know, the difference, you know, in a lot of the material.
Did you actually go to archived research for some of the elements that you put into your music?
We listened to some songs just to try and get some material, and figured, you know, this may be a good one for us to interpret. The first album is pretty much all songs from, you know, the Gullah community that we interpreted. You know, the second album, the Grammy Award-winning album, half of the songs are from the Gullah community, and another half of them are songs that we wrote as a band. So they're new compositions, but they are definitely in the style of the Gullah, you know, tradition.
One thing we talked about when we spoke about the actual written interview is that just having an instrument sometimes changes it from being authentic
Oh, definitely.
to an interpretation.
The authenticity of it is that when you talk or when you have the original Gullah, you know, band, if you will, is your voice, your hands to clap, and your feet to stomp.
Right.
There's some churches that are around that may have a whole lot of other instruments and things like that. But if you take away those instruments and you just have the crowd or the congregation and they're stomping on the floors and they're clapping and they're singing, and you get all of these different variations of the Gullah beat. You've got the full, you know, Gullah beat. You've got the half clap. You've got the one clap, you know, whatever have you. You've got everybody doing a double clap on some, you know, something like that. And it is literally a dream for a percussionist to be in a situation like that, to hear.
Right.
Just having a drum set and a stand-up bassist and an electric guitar and a trumpet,
Right.
that automatically makes it contemporary right there from the original, you know, source that it was. Right.
Thanks for spending your time with the Voice for Mount Pleasant podcast by Mount Pleasant Magazine. Your community, your podcast. Listen to past episodes at voiceformp.com.